record and let me go live on Facebook. And we, all right. So, good morning and welcome. We are talking about marketing today, marketing in our pandemic. Marketing is always kind of a difficult thing to do and to get right to begin with when we have all of the different rules, regulations, and guidelines in today's world hitting us. Sometimes it can be a whole lot more confusing than we really know how to do. What do we do? How do we make it work? And even more important than that is, what doesn't work now is only going to cost you. When it works, it will benefit you. But if it doesn't work, then it's going to cost you every single time. So we can go to my introduction slide. There we go. So good morning. Who am I? I'm Rick Plaskett, and I'm a business coach with Action Coach. I've been here since 2007. Have a number of accomplishments that I've done with some of my clients, past and present. I'm a West Point grad, served in the Army for 14 years. After that, was in corporate America for another period of time before becoming a business coach and doing my business on my own. If I'm not doing this type of thing, I grew up from diapers in a sailboat, loved to sail, could jump on any boat at any time. It's like riding a bicycle, just absolutely love to do that. Riding horses was the next thing that came along. And then through the Army, hey, if you don't learn to love firing a weapon in the Army, then you probably picked the wrong career at that time. So I like going and making holes in paper targets and seeing how close I can get them. Listen, today, together with me, I've invited Andrew in and want to have Andrew introduce himself. He is a marketing expert and owns his own marketing company and has absolutely helped a number of our clients to achieve some really great penetration and great return on investment. So Andrew, why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi. Thanks, Rick. My name's Andrew Abersold. I'm the founder of Meteora, a digital marketing agency here in the Louisville area. I've actually been doing digital marketing in some capacity since the mid to late 90s and started this company in 2003. We've been fortunate to win a few prestigious awards here locally, along with several industry-specific awards. But when I'm not working and doing kind of marketing and business things, I love to play soccer. I love to watch soccer, play about 3 or 4 days a week. It's fantastic exercise, makes me feel young. And I love to restore and build cars. And actually, I'm a trained musician, professional musician. In a previous life, I produced over 20 albums through myself, my record label, and friends that were in bands as well. So hopefully today, Rick and I can help you shine a light on some of the marketing challenges and things that you can do in the world we're living in today. So with that, Rick, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Super. Thank you. Thank you, Andrew. So yeah, the world we're living in today, what the heck are people thinking and how do we connect to them? Our society worldwide is based on social interaction, and that's been taken away. So a whole lot of businesses, probably yours included, have pivoted to online. Online is the accepted way of connecting today. What does that mean? Online is the avenue. It's the vehicle to communicate your message. The challenge is you're still in your world and that world has changed, and the receiver, your potential customers, are in a different world. And this photograph here simply illustrates how customers interpret the same thing. We're all breathing the same air and we're all living in the same society, and yet we have different interpretations of what happens and what our life is supposed to be now. And so connecting with those people, particularly connecting virtually through the internet, becomes even more critical to the success of your business. There's, if you looked at the news this week, the stock market is at an all-time high. So business is booming in some areas. There's other areas as well where there's a whole lot of businesses that have gone out of business. Your customers need to, number one, know that you're still in business, and number two, know that you're still doing the things you're supposed to be doing, and you're doing it in a safe way. So let's take a look at what marketing plays in that environment. And let's go to the next slide. Today, we want to talk about 5 different things in your marketing, okay? There's a whole lot of opportunity to spend money in marketing, and it becomes an expense. What we want to do is help you take a look at how do we know how that expense turns into an investment. When you have an investment, you know that if I spend X dollars in this type of marketing, I'm going to get Y customers in return. So number one we want to look at today is, how do you know your marketing numbers? Do you know them? How do we find that out? Do you know what your customer acquisition cost is? You know, I heard once somebody said that, let's take out the marketing and put in banking. If you had the ability and you knew that you could go into your bank this afternoon and give them $100 and they would give you $200 back, how many times would you go in with $100? You'd go in forever. Well, marketing becomes the bank when you know your customer acquisition costs. So those are 2 things that we want to do. One of the key tools that you use for marketing right now is your website. So the question is, what do you want your website to do? Is it doing the right thing for you, and is it doing it well? And then the last part of this, and this is just it's interesting to me. I was going to say funny. It's not really funny. It's pretty sad sometimes. But number 5, how do you want your customers to contact you? And are you communicating that to them? These are the 5 things that Andrew and I will discuss today. So let's get started with the first thing, okay? Taking marketing that you do and turning it into a return on your investment. How do you do that? Well, it's this formula right here. If you know the results that you're getting from your marketing, you know the number of new phone calls, the number of new customers that are coming from a particular marketing campaign. Okay, and then you multiply that by the average dollar that they spend with you. Okay, you've got a total revenue from that marketing. All you have to do is subtract out what you're paying for that marketing. So to use my bank situation right there, the investment that I make is $100. If I know that I'm getting 2 customers every time I run that $100 campaign, and each of those customers is spending $100 with me, I'm getting $200 minus $100. I'm getting 100% on my return. Now that may seem small and simplistic, but shoot, if I knew that formula, I'd be doing that every single minute that I possibly could, because it's a positive return on my investment. This is a formula, however, that many businesses just are either 1, not aware of, or 2, don't invest the resources, the time, and the system to make this thing part of their business. They'd rather just invest money here and there, and the phone rings and they're not quite sure why it's ringing. So if we can go to the next slide there, Andrew. Knowing your numbers. That formula was all about the numbers. So you've got to know your numbers. Without the details, your marketing is simply a guess. Okay, I'm going to spend here because I know I have to spend. But why, and what am I getting for it? That's just not the way to do business. We call ourselves Action Coach, business coaches. Okay? Sports teams have coaches. Sports are all about the scoreboard. At the end of the game, the one with the higher score wins the game. There's a whole lot of statistics that go behind it. Knowing your numbers is about the statistics. And when you know those statistics, that will then translate into, Are you winning at marketing or are you losing? So if you look at how much are you spending in a particular marketing area and campaign, how many new customers are you getting from that? Do you know those answers to those two questions? How much do they spend with you? You know, it's interesting that people don't track that. We've got QuickBooks and a whole mess of point of sales software and programs that we use, and yet people don't pay attention to that. As a business coach, I help my clients understand how to gather that information and use it as a powerful tool for managing their business. How many times does a business or a person buy from you? You know, the difference in those, if you can answer those questions, you're in good shape to use that formula that I gave you. If you can't answer those questions, then that's where I help my clients. I help them find where to get the answers to those questions from their own business and how to put them together. It's simple, but it's just not easy if you don't know what it is. The next slide, Andrew. So when we know the answers to those questions, then we have our customer acquisition cost. And if you look at your marketing as buying customers, you know, if it costs me $1 to buy a customer and a customer spends $10 with me, I'm going to do that all day long. You know, if I want $100 more in my revenue, I know to spend $10 on my marketing because I've got it down to that formula. So there's two different types of acquisition costs here. The first to think about is an allowable. Okay, this is where if I invest, say $100 in marketing, and the very first new customer comes in, spends $1,000, that's an allowable marketing cost because I have a positive ROI on that on the very first purchase. Man, if we knew that, we'd do that all day long. Again, it's simple, but it's not easy to put that together. Andrew will get into the nuts and bolts of how we have to do that on an online marketing campaign. But even though he can create magic in that area and he knows what works and what doesn't work, if we as business owners don't understand and track this allowable and customer acquisition cost, we don't even know how to judge him. Okay, we would be looking at something masterful, but not really being able to interpret how does that work in our own business. So the allowable is when the first purchase, the money coming in is more than what you spent on the marketing. Investment marketing is where the first purchase is less than what you spent. So if I spend $100 and the first purchase is only $50, I've got to get two purchases from that same person to make up for my investment. Okay, so that's an investment cost. Now, if you have a business where there's repeat customers, a barbershop, okay, I can market all day long for $100 because people hair grow. Well, the people that have hair, it grows and it needs to be cut. So we know that that customer is going to come back again and again and again. And at some point, maybe it's the second visit, maybe it's the 10th visit, but we know after that visit, all of that is going to be pure profit and pure return from that one marketing to acquire that customer. Now, investment marketing obviously is more risky. If we could do allowable marketing all day long, man, everybody would love that. You know, invest $1 and get $10 back. That's great. But some areas we can't do that. We've got to have repeat businesses. And in service industries, sometimes that repeat business or sometimes those service plans is where you make your money from the marketing. And that's a more complex formula that we have to look at. The critical part of this slide is to know those two different types of return on your investment. When you're buying your customers, recognize, am I making money on that first purchase that they make with us, or am I going to need to keep them for longer? When we know those two, we can absolutely dial in how our marketing plan talks to that customer. So these are the setups of what we wanted to do. Now I want to turn it over to Andrew and let him just wow you as he's wowed me and several of our customers on what does it look like when we go virtual, when we use and turn over all of this information to the power of the electron on the internet? So Andrew, why don't you take it over?
Great. Thank you, Rick. Obviously, things have changed in our world, and marketing and advertising online has become more viable because you have fewer opportunities to personally interact with people. And a lot of customers are trying to figure out, okay, I know a little bit about some of these things, but should I be doing one of them? Should I be doing all of them? And they're really not sure how to proceed. And so once you understand that basic principle of buying customers, then you're going to start to ask yourself the question of, okay, which of these techniques might work for me? And so I've only prepared a few of them today. We could go on and make a much larger list, or we could take some of these that I've consolidated and really get nuanced with it. That's kind of beyond the point of this. I want to give you some basic points on ways that you can generate awareness, generate customers, generate traffic that's going to come to your website so that they can learn about your brand, your products, your services, make that decision, make the action. So what we're doing in the digital world is not that different from what you might have considered in a traditional sales concept. We have a funnel or a pipeline. We need to get people there as that first step. So contrary to the popular movie Field of Dreams, if you build it, they may not come. So just having a website by itself is really not enough. You need to be actively promoting it. And so some of the ways that you could do that, everyone's familiar with email marketing. Sometimes it gets a bad reputation, but honestly, if you have a quality list of customers or prospects, that can still be very effective, and it's also very cost effective. So I would be naive to not mention email marketing as a possible way to drive traffic. Another one that people are very familiar with now since the lockdown occurred is social media marketing. Just about everybody I know spent probably more time than they should have over the past several months on platforms like Facebook or LinkedIn, trying to either just pass the time or maybe drum up business. Well, those platforms can be very powerful if you use them effectively to get the word out and drive interest for your product or services. One that gets a little bit trickier, and this is the one where measuring your results becomes even more important because you're directly paying a company like Google or Facebook to buy advertisements. And if you're not measuring that correctly, you can spend a lot of money. Because I will tell you, you can write a check for $1,000, $10,000, $100,000 to Google. They will find a way to spend it within the time period that you want to spend it 9 times out of 10. And if you're not getting the results for it, how do you know if that's been a waste of money? So anytime you do a paid search, whether it's on Google or Bing or a display campaign on Facebook or maybe on YouTube, you need to be aware of those numbers and measure it. We're going to talk a little bit about that later. Another one that people are probably familiar with but didn't even realize it is content marketing. That can take on a lot of forms. That could be you writing a guest blog on an industry-specific website where you get credited for it, and maybe people say, oh, he's an expert on carpet cleaning. Let's go check out his process and his website. Or something like this, where we're doing a PowerPoint and kind of a webinar concept. This is, in a sense, a form of content marketing. And the reason I put organic search, or what a lot of people call just SEO, search engine optimization, last, is because it can incorporate a lot of the other efforts that you're doing in those other pieces. Social media marketing can help enhance your organic search. Paid search can help enhance your organic search. Content marketing, posting blogs on other sites, that's a link building campaign that can impact organic search. And for anyone that's not very clear on that, if you ever do a search on Google and those first few spots, they'll say ad real small next to them, those are paid ads. That's a pay-per-click strategy. If you scroll down the page and you see the organic results or the results that haven't been paid for, that's where we're talking about SEO and organic search. And the reason that a lot of people will do multiple things on this list is because the consumer mindset, some people will scroll right past that paid ad and look at the organic results. And some people will just click on the first ad they see. And if you're doing a variety of these techniques, you have a better chance at capturing more customers to check out your brand. So now that we've talked just on the surface about how to generate traffic to your website, I'd like to, tackle the next challenge here. You've got them to your website. Now what, right? Have you got a clear goal? So basically, if we want to know if your website's working for you, I'm going to tackle these steps here. Is there a purpose or a goal to your website? A lot of people will say, oh, my website is just there to be informative or to validate what I'm telling somebody in a sales pitch or whatever. They're going to go there afterwards and look at it. And, that's not really kind of okay anymore. You've got to be doing more. That should have a clear goal that if they go there to validate you, what do they do next, right? Are you going to get them to submit some type of a form or call you back or watch a video that you think is going to help you close a deal? There really needs to be intent behind your website, and it has to be well thought out. So is the goal established? Are you directing them to that goal? Think about our funnel image earlier, right? You want them to go here and click this, and then you want them to go here and fill out that form. And then after they get the form, you want them to watch a video perhaps. So those are some things that you should be thinking about when you're building your website or improving it. Another thing that a lot of people don't understand is your website functioning properly? Just because you can pull it up on your web browser and it looks okay and the images load doesn't always mean that it's really working well under the hood, okay? Google, for example, is going to scan your website and look at it to see how it's performing. And the worse it performs, the lower you're going to perform on those search results. And we all know that most of the time people don't go to the second and third and fourth and fifth page of Google. They click on one of those top results. So if your website has any kind of hidden programming errors or isn't following some of the industry best practices for ranking high on organic search, maybe it's hosted with a budget hosting company that you're paying $5 a month for and it loads really slow. All those things are going to send signals to Google that it's not a great website and they're not going to rank you high. So making sure it's performing well is more than just looking at it and saying, hey, it looks okay. And that's where the concept of an audit comes into play. And we can do those for you. You can do them yourself if you know where to look for it. Another one would be, do you keep it updated, right? If you haven't changed your website in 3 years, Google knows that. Your customers know it. They're going to think that, wow, these guys don't really take care of their own stuff. They're not staying on top of things. So keeping it updated with current content, even if it's something as simple as making sure the copyright in your footer has the correct year on it, does send a signal to consumers that you are on top of the game and staying relevant. And I will say the final point on this, quality matters. Okay, don't just put a bunch of junk on there. Don't write, blogs for the sake of writing them if you're going to do that. Make sure that everything on the site is of a good quality. The images that you're using, the copy that you're using, it makes a difference. So gone are the days that you can hire the guy in his basement to crank out a quick, dirty website for you, because if you're going to spend hundreds or thousands or even hundreds of thousands of dollars to drive people to this website, you need it to be top notch. So we're going to kind of connect the dots here. We talked about buying customers earlier, and I've told you about some ways to drive people to your site. And then once they're on your website, you want them to take action. You want them to contact you in some way or buy a product if it's an online shop. So what we want to do is make sure we're measuring at least 3 key things here. You can take this further and further and further if you want, but there are 3 things you should be aware of: the impressions, the clicks, and the conversions. So if we're thinking about this from a paid advertising standpoint, you're buying an ad on Facebook, okay? The impressions would be how many times somebody saw that ad. The clicks would be obviously how many times they clicked on it if they saw it. And then the conversion would be something that you've established. And you can set this early in the process, or you can really take it all the way to the final purchase or sale. But basically, a contact form submission or a phone call could be a conversion for you because you got them to look at your ad, they clicked on it, and then they made an action to reach out to you, and then you're up to your own if you're going to close that deal or not. We have some customers that take it even further, though. They'll say, okay, show me all the people that called me from the ads, and I want to match that to my CRM and see how many of them actually signed up for a service with us, and that's my true conversion, and that's how you can get the ROI calculation that Rick talked about earlier. If you're not measuring those things, you'll never know which of them are working, right? If you're not measuring the forms you're getting through your website, the calls you're getting, ultimately those sales, and you're not attributing them to each of those specific marketing techniques to drive traffic, you'll have no idea what's not working, so you can't fix it. And you also won't know what is working, so you can't amplify it. And that's how you waste a lot of money and will scratch your head and bang it against the wall and say, I don't know how I'm getting these leads, but something's working. Well, what if you're getting all your leads from a social media campaign that's performing excellent and you just didn't know it? And on the other hand, you're spending $5,000 a month on Google and it's getting you nothing, but you thought it was getting you something. You're going to keep spending that money, and that's bad. So I think the moral of the story here is to know your numbers, right? You need to know what's working and what's not so that you can learn from it and grow and make your business more successful. And with that, I'd like to hand it back over to Rick so that he can summarize what we've talked about today.
Awesome. Thank you, Andrew. Real simple, knowing your numbers. And a lot of times you have those numbers and you have that information available to you. That's what I do. I help you find it. Sometimes it's as simple as a little check sheet next to the phone. Other times it's even simpler because your QuickBooks or your point of sale system gathers all this information. We just don't know where it is that it's even gathered. Knowing your acquisition cost. When we know what we have to spend to get a customer and what that customer spends with us, now we've turned marketing from something that could be hooked on hopium as a drug to something that is predictable for the future. Are you generating the leads using the internet? Andrew pointed out one thing, and I wanted to really emphasize that. One of the critical areas that I'm working with my clients on right now is in this post-pandemic or current pandemic world, if your website is not current, people click away from it very, very quickly. If the first image that they have are, a large group of people, no one wearing masks, and it is very, very clear that it is a pre-pandemic message on your very first page, people click away very, very quickly. If you're not certain as to what those visual triggers are, what those word triggers are, then give us a call, send me an email, and that's what we can do. Andrew works on the website and getting everything squared away, but he can only work with what you give him. And that's where I come in as a business coach, is helping you to understand where your position in this world is and where your position and what your customers are looking for. So updating the website and having it current in today's mindset and today's environment is absolutely critical. Is your website optimized for converting those leads? The worst scenario, and I had a client a year or so ago that was doing this, put together a website that worked fabulous. Phone calls went from a few a day to hundreds a day. Well, the phone calls were all going to his cell phone. And you know what? He was a service mechanic. He worked for a HVAC company, or he owned an HVAC company. And when someone was sick, he was out in the field. Well, it's a little hard to answer your phone when you're in a crawl space of a home. Everything worked. The marketing worked. Andrew's magic worked. And yet he was the weak link because we were driving everything to a form of communication that he couldn't optimize. He couldn't handle the new success. So knowing where you want those leads to go is absolutely critical. The last part here is measuring your effort and improving upon them all the time. One of the key things that Andrew talked about was conversions. And that's, again, where I can help with business owners in understanding what the conversion is that you're looking for. What do we want to measure? You know, the best conversion in the world is the new deposit into a bank account. But having that connected to a marketing activity sometimes takes a little more work to make sure that we can connect those dots. So these are the 5 things that we've talked about today. You know, I hope that puts marketing at least into an outline of a perspective of what it looks like in today's world. If you go to the last slide there, you know, Andrew and I are here. These are our email addresses. Email us and, you know, set up. If you want to talk with me, you know, let's set up a time. You can pick my brains, ask what's working, what's not working, and we'll see what's right for you. Same thing with Andrew. Andrew, you know, send him an email. He can take a look at where you are right now with your marketing and your website and all of your online marketing campaigns. And you guys may work out how can you improve that just by a little bit or by huge bundles. Those 2 emails are the way to get in touch with us right now. I hope this has been informative to you. Look forward to, Andrew and I have talked before this webinar today, and we've got at least 2 more ideas that we want to share with you jointly. So be looking for future webinar broadcasts, and have a super day. Andrew, you got any last words before we sign off?
No, I think this has been great. I hope that it's helped a lot of people. And as Rick said, we're available if you have any questions. And if you really need us to, we'll even come together and talk to you as a team. So feel free to reach out, and we're here for you. Thank you all for your time.
All right. Thank you as well. You all have a great day.